Welcome to the EX podcast, where I talk with business leaders, authors, and disruptors on how the workplace is changing. This podcast brings a different lens to the conversation around HR transformation, company culture, and employee engagement. It offers a brand and customer experience perspective rather than a traditional HR perspective. Why? Because companies have to think of themselves as employment brands if they hope to attract and retain talent. It is time we put people first to rehumanize the workplace, simply because leaders who don't care about their employees will eventually be surrounded by people who don't care about their business. Today's guest is Tom Frank, a culture engineer, modern elder, and founder of the I'm Essential project. Today with Tom, we talk about what it means to have a people-centered workplace, why we must lead with intention and make all people inside our organizations visible, what's fucked up with HR today, and we also talk about his I'm Essential project. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Tom, and because it takes a good amount of time to produce this podcast, please make sure to review the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, or YouTube, as it will help promote the content. If you want me to speak at your next events, you get some advice on your EX initiatives, or send me feedback and suggestions for future topics or guests, you can reach me at svincent@exsummit.com or on Twitter at ex_summit. All right, let's get to it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the EX podcast. I'm super excited for today's guest, Tom Frank. And for those who don't know Tom, who don't know anything about Tom, let me give you a bit of insights. As he doesn't want to talk about himself, I'll do this for him. But Tom was one of the original founders of P.F. Chang, and I'm sure that many of you know what P.F. Chang is and has been to one of their numerous or multiple restaurants. But when Tom was at P.F. Chang, he focused on the culture, leadership development, and training programs. And after leaving P.F. Chang, he's worked on the development of over 14 unique restaurant concept startups and the opening of over 80 restaurants. Tom is a culture engineer and modern elder. He's a culture champion. And I'm very excited to have you with us today on the show, Tom.
Thank you very much, Stefan. I appreciate it.
So what is a culture engineer and a modern elder?
You know, I appreciate you doing my introduction for me so that I didn't have to talk about myself. But one of the things that's kind of worried me about this is that if we focus on the idea of the restaurant history of all the work I've done in the business, I'm afraid we might lose some people who think this is going to be about the restaurant business.
It won't.
And it really is not. I mean, I think that the conversation that you and I have had and the conversation that we'll have today is really more universal. And so I don't want anybody to go away because of my restaurant background. And so, yeah, I've worked with not only restaurants doing culture engineering work, but I've worked with people in the tech sector, in all different sectors. And I think it's simple. The idea is simple. In order to be the business of choice for your customers, you have to first be the employer of choice. And developing a strategy to become the employer of choice is exactly what it is that I've been dedicated to, and maybe for my whole life, because this goes way back. So let me talk about modern elder. Anybody in my age group, and I'm 60. So who hasn't read Chip Conley's book, Wisdom of Work, Making a Modern Elder? You have to get it. It has to be a priority, because what he did is basically to think differently about place in the community and to understand what it means as we get old and the importance that we have. And so when I declared myself to be a modern elder, what it did is it changed the way I think about why I'm in the room. I understand that, yeah, I mean, I do consulting work, but I don't want to be thought of as the consultant in the room. But the trade-off is I have so much respect for young people today that you teach me your technology, teach me your energy, and teach me about the way you think about the world, and I will share with you the wisdom that I've gained over the years and the experience that I have. So does that kind of explain it?
It does, yes. So from your experience, and that's a wide, long question. What makes a good culture? What are the key ingredients to build an engaging and powerful company culture?
Well, I think that it's important to realize that the word culture has been not only misused, but it's been overused. I mean, a lot of people talk about culture. A lot of people talk about, all the aspects of how to create culture in their environment. But, for me, what I've learned about culture more than anything, Stefan, is that culture is as culture does. Culture isn't the poster on the wall. Mm-hmm. Culture is what exists in your company. That if you have a poster on the wall that says that we're a culture of respect, and you have one manager in your company, in your entire company, that is disrespecting or bullying their employees, to those employees, you're not a culture of respect. And everything else that you say loses credibility. That I love Howard Moskowitz's saying. He says that to a worm in horseradish, the whole world is horseradish. So I think it's important to really differentiate between culture aspirations and the actual horseradish, what exists in your company. And I think it's really important that you know the difference, because your employees know what your culture is, and you might be the only one who doesn't. And so I'm really careful when I talk about the word culture. For me, I call my company Round World Management. And the reason why is because I have worked with an extraordinary amount of flat world thinkers. And I've worked with a lot of very flat world companies. Being a round world thinker has gotten me into a lot of trouble in my career. And so let me kind of explain. First of all, a lot of the people that I've worked with that I consider flat world thinkers are people who think that if we try to do something differently, if we try to do something better, then we're going to fall off the edge of the earth and die. That there's only one right way to do things. And to me, the difference between a flat world company and a round world company is flat world companies manage through their policies and their procedures and their rules and their regulations. And when they have a problem that they've got to solve, or they've got an issue that they have to address in their company, the question that flat world companies they ask themselves, what is our policy on that? Or what is the rule? And if they don't have a policy or a rule, we have to have a meeting, and then we have to have another meeting, and we have to come up with a rule, and we have to come up with a policy. And they get so bogged down with their policies and their rules and regulations and procedures. To me, a round world company manages through their values and their beliefs and their guiding principles and their aspirations for their organization. And so when a round world company has a problem that needs to solve, or a situation that they need to handle, the question that they ask themselves is, what do we believe about this? How does the solution we need to come up with this fit into our values, fit into our aspirations and goals for the company? So to me, that's the kind of culture that I've been trying to create. As a round world thinker, I often think about the people who got on the boat with Christopher Columbus searching for a better world. And like, what kind of, what were their hopes, and what were their aspirations, that they would risk their life? Because everybody was telling them that if they went out in search of a better world, they were going to fall off the edge of the earth and die. Like, can you imagine how committed they were to finding something better? So, I'm kind of lucky because this all started when I was like 16 years old, bussing tables and working for in a restaurant in Phoenix. And I think the manager's name was Judy. And I knew at 16 years old that there was a better way to run a restaurant. Like, I knew that it wasn't supposed to be us against them, right? And I knew it wasn't supposed to be the people in the front of the house working against the people in the back of the house or vice versa. I knew it wasn't supposed to be the managers against the employees. I knew that. And the one thing I knew for sure is that it wasn't supposed to be us against the customers. And that sounds crazy, but I think a lot of people will tell you that they've worked in places like that. I mean, I worked in a restaurant when I was young that the only thing that was getting in the way of all the fun that we were having was those damn customers. It would have been so much more fun if we didn't have them. And even at the age of 16, I knew that that wasn't the way to run a business, that it couldn't be us against them. And so I was lucky because I always knew what my better world was. I was very, very clear. My better world, even when I was young, bartending and waiting tables and working in restaurants, I always knew that my better world was very simple. I just wanted to come to work every day and feel good about myself. Like, I just, for me, the better world was coming to work every day in a place where I was going to be judged for the quality of my work and not my waist size or who I was dating or anything else. I just wanted to come to work every day in a place where I was valued for the quality of my contribution. So, like, okay, I knew what my better world was. And then I became a manager, and then I started owning restaurants, and then I started opening restaurants around the country. And what I figured out is that in order for me to create a better world for me, for myself, my better world, I needed to provide a better world for everybody around me. That I needed to provide not my better world, but their better world, right? And so when I realized that, I thought, okay, like, what does that mean to me? Okay, so a lot of people ask me, Stefan, like, how do you know what other people's better worlds are? And here's what I found out. Pretty easy. Ask them, right? You'd be amazed if you take the time to ask your employees what their idea of a better world is, what kind of manager they want to work for, what kind of company they want to work for, what they want from each other as fellow employees, what they're looking for in a company where they can come to work every day and feel good about what that means to them. You'll be amazed at how good people are at articulating what their better world looks like. So other people ask me, well, doesn't everybody have a different idea of a better world? And the answer is, yeah, of course, everyone has the answer. I'm committed to creating a better world culture for employees. And yes, everybody has a different idea of what a better world is. But part of my job is to make sure that I'm surrounding myself with other people whose better worlds are at least similar enough to mine, that we're moving in the same direction.
Yes.
I'm not going to come to work every day and commit myself to creating a better world for somebody who comes to work who doesn't care about their job. Like, I'm not wasting my time. I'm not going to waste my time trying to create a better world for somebody who doesn't care about their fellow employees, and definitely not going to work to create a better world for somebody who doesn't care about my company or our customers. And so the key is to, first of all, make sure you don't hire those people. And the second thing is to hire and surround yourself with people who understand that being a part of this better world is going to benefit everybody.
So from asking people what's in their minds is a better world for themselves individually and ultimately collectively, from that step, then how do you once you've asked them, what's a better world for them, once you've identified what are the values that we want to live by, that we want to bring to life, how do you ensure that there is consistency in human behaviors within an organization, and how to ensure that everybody is fully aligned on how to bring those behaviors day after day, so that you create and you nurture this culture of humanity?
Well, let's get very specific.
Yes.
There's a question I've been asking people for years. I mean, literally years and years. And I've probably asked this to thousands of people because I've done it in the groups every time I've opened a restaurant, when I've worked with other companies in their culture, and in conferences and conventions that I've spoken in. It's a very specific question. It's going to sound a little stupid at first, but just bear with me. The question that I ask is, how many of you drive? And of course, like pretty much everybody raises their hand. And I say, okay, good. How many of you stop at red lights? And I can hear some snickering in the background because it sounds like a silly question. And some people will joke and say, well, sometimes I do, or whatever. And I'm like, no, seriously, how many of you stop at red lights? And everybody raises their hand. So the next question I ask is, why? How come? Like, why do you stop at red lights? And you can imagine I've gotten a lot of different answers from this. Of course, I love the one when they say, well, I stop at a red light because I don't want to get a ticket. I'm like, really? Seriously? The reason you stop at a red light is because you're afraid of getting a ticket? Other people who are a little more involved will say, well, I don't want to get in an accident. A good reason to stop at a red light?
Yeah.
The majority of people who have answered that question say the reason they stop at red lights is because you're supposed to.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm like, okay, all right, I understand. Most people think they stop at red lights because they're supposed to. And what I propose to them is that the reason why they stop at red lights is to enjoy the freedom to go through green lights safely.
Interesting. Now, when you asked the question initially, my immediate answer in my mind was just because it's the law, or it's a requirement.
Because it's the law, right.
Since one second after, I thought, well, yes, but also because I don't want to cause an accident and injure other people.
Right.
That was my second thought.
Right. But think about this. Yeah. I'm going to tell you a story. And the truth is, when I say the reason why you stop at red lights is to enjoy the freedom to go through green lights safely, when you pull up to an intersection and the light is red, you give up your freedom to go through that intersection in order to enjoy the freedom to go through. So here's my story. And by the way, we'll go back to this because this has got a lot to do with mask wearing now. It's 1:00 in the morning on a Saturday night, and I remember this very vividly. And I'm driving down the street in Phoenix, Arizona, on a major street at 1:00 in the morning called Camelback Road. Mm-hmm. And I'm heading east towards 16th Street, heading towards Scottsdale, 1:00 in the morning on a weekend night. And let me tell you exactly what happened, because this is a true story. As I'm pulling towards the intersection, I noticed that there's a car coming towards me, and they're pulling to the left-hand turn lane. And then there were a couple cars coming perpendicular on 16th Street, and my light turned green. So now, of course, I had a decision to make. Like, what am I supposed to do now? So I did what I think you're supposed to do, which is put my foot on the gas to go through the intersection, right? So here's what happened. The car that was coming towards me that pulled into the left-hand turn lane stopped and waited for me to get through the intersection. And the other two cars on 16th Street stopped at the red light, and I went right through the intersection. Like, I don't know any of those people. Like, I don't remember ever sitting down with any of those people and say, okay, this is the way it's going to happen. Like, when did we all decide that was going to happen? And not only did it happen, Stefan, but I think, if I remember, it happened at the next intersection too. As a matter of fact, I think it happens all the time. And I think we take it for granted because there's an extraordinary amount of participation in just getting everybody to do that. All right, I'm going to admit that I am a nerd, and I'll tell you why. I have fallen in love with four-way stops. You know, four-way intersections, yes. Right? Yeah. I have a four-way stop right down the street from my house here. Every day I pull up to that intersection. And as I pull up every day, I think to myself, okay, we're going to do this. Like, we're going to make this happen. And I don't know any of those people, but I pull up and there's a car there already and another car there already. And I pull up and then another car pulls up, and it's just a thing of beauty. The car that was there first goes, and then the other car goes, and then it's my turn to go, and I go, and the other car, I told you I'm a nerd. The other car stops and waits for us, and it's beautiful. The amazing amount of participation that it takes for everybody to agree that this is the way it's going to happen, and it works. And one day I pull up to the intersection in my neighborhood, and I thought to myself, you know, the truth is my car is a little nicer than everybody else's car. I drive a nice car, and I think, you know, my car's more expensive. Shouldn't I be able to go first? And how could it work that way, right? It really drove home a point to me that it doesn't matter what kind of car I drive. It doesn't matter whether I'm white or black or gay or straight or Mexican. It doesn't matter. In order to make that intersection work, we all need to participate as equals. We all need to do our part for the greater good.
Yes, I love the analogy because like we don't have four-way stops in Europe, or at least in France.
You have roundabouts.
Right? So I had to learn the concepts when I moved to the US. First was like, this is not logical, right? So I had to learn the concept and get aligned and participate like everybody else and just play by the rules. And I was just, you know, it was just going through my mind as you were talking. It's like when you join an organization, obviously, well, hopefully, you know, when you join a new organization, somehow your values are aligned, hopefully, right? Your values are aligned with the organization's values. Now you still have to learn about the behaviors within the organization and how you're going to interact with the leadership, right, your coworkers, just part of the learning process, but you have to make compromises and you have to play as a team with everybody else to make it work collectively.
You have to stop at the red lights.
Yes, you have to stop at the red lights, yes.
Right. And there's red lights all over your business. I don't care what kind of business it is. Stop. Put the paper in the copy machine. Stop. Pick that up. Stop. Fix that. Stop. Leave that in a good place for the next person who walks in. Because the idea is you need to stop, do anything and everything you can so the next person who approaches that intersection doesn't have to stop and do anything you could have or should have done. This is culture.
It is. So let's go a bit deeper on this as well, because it brings another question to my mind is, I love the conversation around culture fit versus culture add, right? And culture fit is you're going to find people actually just like you or like other people in your organizations that really fit into the molds where everybody knows the rules of the game. They all follow the rules and so forth. While culture add is someone who's not necessarily is like falling into the molds, doesn't necessarily share all the same, not values, but all the same behaviors, or doesn't know what the behaviors are and so forth. We're just going to add something else that doesn't exist yet in the organization. So what's your take on the culture fit versus culture add?
Well, unfortunately, I've experienced this, and I've worked with companies who really loved the idea of culture fit. Unfortunately, the problem is that culture fit is often used as an excuse for basically exclusion. Mm-hmm. Culture fit is because it's the PLU thing. Do you know the term PLU? People like us, you know, and all of a sudden you find yourself working in a company where everybody likes to go fishing or everybody plays golf or or whatever, and you don't fit into that. You might have a great contribution to the organization, but they consider you not a culture fit. And I think we need to be careful, because I've seen the term culture fit be just a really interesting rationale for racism.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it being an interesting rationale for ageism and fatism and looksism and all the other isms, because that doesn't appear to be a culture fit. And I think the culture add concept is really important, because what can this person add to the culture? But that doesn't mean they're not aligned with your values.
Right.
I mean, that doesn't mean that they don't have the same aspirations for the company that you do. And so I think you got to be very careful with the concept of culture fit, and make sure that you're not using it as an excuse to exclude people that might very well participate as a very important part of your organization.
So switching gears a little bit, when we were preparing the conversation today, and I'm reading the message that you sent because I thought it was very powerful. You said, "My heart goes to HR people today. The job that most of them applied for when they were hired is often not the job that they are being asked to do today. For many people, culture was not on the job description, and perhaps not even on their resume or their skill sets." And that's a very interesting concept and angle to continue this conversation, is where you've been in the culture space for a long time and you've worked with HR teams across many organizations. What is changing right now in the HR worlds, and where does the function and the people need to move towards to?
You know, I do really feel for them, but I have spoken at a lot of the SHRM conferences, or a few of the SHRM conferences. And every time I walk through the room, and there might be like thousands of HR people, I think they look at me like they need to write me up for something. I don't even know what I did. But no, I have an enormous amount of respect what people do in the HR industry. And especially now with the Me Too movement and things like that, I think this is really, really important. And checking all the boxes is really important too. But now all of a sudden, for some reason, they're bringing this idea of culture into this HR segment without really understanding that just might not be the skill set that they hired some of these people to do. I mean, many of them really are excited about it, but even the people that are excited about it really don't know how to make it happen in their organization, because sometimes they find barriers above them. They're like, yeah, let's give this to our HR person. But when they actually want to do some good movement towards culture, they're finding that they're not getting support from the people above them. So yeah, it's an interesting conundrum. I mean, all of them really care about their companies and really want the companies to do good, but that just might not have been their skill set when they were hired. Now, don't let me say in any way that there aren't a lot of people in HR that really care about culture and really want to do something about it. But I think that we need to evaluate where it belongs in our company. Like, for instance, training. HR is often in charge of the training of people, and I think it's important that we train the HR part of our company to new employees. But I'm not sure that it's always where training belongs. I've always often thought that the training department should be in the marketing department, because I think so much of what training is what I call internal marketing, which is taking your brand and taking the message you're trying to deliver to your customers and turning it inwards to your employees. Because I don't know how you can sell your employees, your customers, what it is that you're trying to sell them without delivering it to your employees first.
Something that you are clearly passionate about, and it just circles back a little bit to our conversation early on about employees feeling valued, and feeling that they're essential part of the entire project, meaning taking the organization to not necessarily to the next level, but growing the company, serving customers, and so forth. So tell us about the essential project? What, how was it born? What is it? Where do you want to take it? Tell us a bit more about it.
It's interesting because the I'm Essential project right now, even though there's no profit in it, nobody's making any money, feels like the most important thing I've ever done in my career. And it started with the day that I was doing a puzzle at home, and I realized two things. The first one is that I hate doing puzzles. I'm just not a puzzle guy. I'm sorry. And the second thing was that I need to stand up from this puzzle and make something happen, do something important. I've spent my entire career trying to create a better workplaces for employees. I needed to use that to figure out what can we be doing. And at the same time, the government had used the designation of essential workers and non-essential workers.
Yeah.
And in employers, bosses and managers started to use that designation, essential worker and non-essential worker, to decide who was going to come to work and who was going to have to be furloughed or fired.
Yeah.
And that really disturbed me at the time, because it really puts us in a conundrum where, first of all, the people that are going to come to work are going to be risking their health and their family's health to come to work every day. And then, worse than that, the people that we send home or that we fire, not only are they going home not being able to work, but we've told them that they're non-essential. It really bothered me because I've always known my employees were essential. I've always understood this, and I think that what we're unaware of is just how much damage we've done to employees through just this idea. And so the I'm Essential project at the time was the idea of how do we take back the word essential from this government designation and give it back to the people in our community and our businesses, in our neighborhoods, who are essential and always have been essential. And so I called my friend John Floor, who is a graphic designer, and I said, John, this is my idea. What can we do like right now, like that we can get really moving on? And he said, well, I can design some stickers. And so if you go to the I'm Essential project website, you'll see that you can order stickers. They're only 20 cents a piece, and we don't make any profit. Even the printing company has volunteered their time and their effort, and all of the profits that they would normally make are going back to giving stickers to teachers and volunteers. Now we're making buttons, and we're making wristbands, and we're going to be making T-shirts. The idea is simply to address the idea of essentialness, as teaching your employees how essential they are to your organization. But it really goes deeper than that, because I think back to every time I go through a crisis, Stefan, I always go back to reading Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. I don't know if you're familiar with Viktor Frankl. He was a contemporary of Sigmund Freud in the 1930s. He was from Austria. He had developed his own theory of psychology. And before he was able to publish it, he was taken by the Nazis to Auschwitz. And he spent 3 years between Auschwitz and Dachau. And they, in the meantime, destroyed his entire lifetime of work. And when he got out, he wrote this book, Man's Search for Meaning. Oh my God, I recommend it to so many people right now. In the book, he describes what it was like to live in the concentration camp. Then he spends the rest of the book explaining that the difference between the people who survived this atrocity and the ones who didn't were the people who survived were able to find a sense of meaningfulness, and some sense of meaningfulness in their life, some sense of meaningfulness in why they're there and why on a struggle. And the people who didn't survive were people who couldn't find any semblance of meaningfulness. And so I think about what we're going through now, and I think this is really the fundamental key to what we need to deliver to our employees right now, is really helping them understand the meaningfulness that they bring to their job and that they have in their life. I want to deliver self-esteem and pride and worthiness to our employees Yeah, I mean, I've talked to a lot of companies, and a lot of people are buying stickers and using it. And I'm working with companies to make it more of a proprietary thing, so we can deliver this message within their brand. But the idea is that there are extrinsic and intrinsic things we can do for our employees. Yeah, you're paying them. That's something good. A lot of people say that we're doing cool things. We're giving them gift certificates to Starbucks, and we're helping feed their families, and we're paying for their. That's great. It's great. Keep doing that. Do more. But don't forget that the employees are more damaged than we think they are, and we have to address the mental health of our employees in order to get through this. Somebody said to me, listen, Tom, I'm really busy trying to keep my business open and trying to make it through this. And I'm like, yeah, we understand that. I totally understand that. But you can't be too busy to address the mental health of your employees, because you can't do this without making your employees whole. And so hopefully we're making a difference. And not only are people doing it for their businesses, but I'm getting people who are giving it to their customers to give out. I'm getting people ordering it just to give to people in their community. It feels really good. One day I was driving down the street and I noticed that there was a guy taking a break, a bus driver taking a break. So I whipped around and I gave him a sticker, and I told him that, listen, we're taking this word essential back and giving it to people like you. And he put it on and he smiled, and I took his picture for our website and our Instagram and our Facebook. And I said, are you going to keep it on? And he said, I'm never taking this off. And I got in the car and I realized that I had tears coming out of my eyes, because maybe it was just selfish, because it made me feel good to deliver a message of meaningfulness to somebody who has been invisible for so long. And the guy at the washing the cart at the grocery store, and all of these people that have been invisible for so long, we see them now. And I'm hoping that it becomes a permanent shift in mindset. I'm hoping that it becomes a permanent shift in consciousness in our whole society, that we understand what essential actually looks like now. Yeah, the doctors and the nurses and the people on the front lines, they're essential. They're essential workers. I don't even use the word essential worker. I use essential employees, essential people, essential community members, because I think that we as a society need to stand up and say, we understand how hard this is on all of you, and that we want you to know that what you're doing is meaningful. You're going to be the reason why we get through this.
It's very interesting. I remember at some point I was interviewing someone on the podcast who was from France, and usually, the employee experience is translated in French into the contributor experience. So the employee is not the employees, the employee is seen as a contributor, which is basically what you were saying. Everybody is essential and contributes in some way or another to the success of the company, right? So this week I was reading an article as well about Chick-fil-A, who is now the third largest fast food chain after McDonald's and Starbucks. And each Chick-fil-A store is 50% more profitable than a McDonald's store. And you can ask, why is that? Is it because chicken is less expensive than beef and they don't do hamburgers, but they only do, chicken sandwiches? It is. But then it reminded me of another article that I had read a while ago, was about what makes the culture unique and the experience unique for employees and customers at Chick-fil-A is because everybody says thank you. It's just two simple words.
There's a lot of research.
It shows that, there's gratitude. There's a sense of recognition and celebration of, anyone's contribution. There's a sense of, I'm essential. I work here, and whatever I do, whether I work in the kitchen, I work on the assembly line, I'm a waiter, whatever, I'm just essential to the success of the organizations. So altogether is very fascinating to me and very much aligned to what you were saying. So what are your thoughts on this?
You know, Dan Ariely is a professor of behavioral economics at Duke University, and he's written some really amazing books. One of them is Predictably Irrational. But he talks a lot about meaningfulness. Mm-hmm. And he has an amazing, on YouTube, if you go to Dan Ariely TED Talk, you'll see what makes us, I think it's what makes us like our work. It's a great video, 20 great minutes, where he's done a lot of research and a lot of experimentation. And what he found is that a lot of people really still believe that the primary motivating factor for people at work is money. And he's found out that that's probably not as true as we think it is. And that if you really look at it, that the primary motivation is now for young, especially younger people today, is a sense of meaningfulness, sense of being a part of something bigger than themselves. But he also discovered through his research and his experimentation, it doesn't take a lot. It's not a lot of work to simply acknowledge the employees for their contribution. And as I said at the beginning, my idea of a better world was simply being valued for the quality of my contribution. It's just not that difficult. And it's not always a monetary gift. It's not always a prize. It's not always a reward and recognition program, although reward and recognition programs are great. Sometimes it's just stopping and telling them. I remember when I became a young manager, I had a realization that I'd say to a busboy, I'd say, "Hey, Billy, you're a great busboy. Thanks a lot for your work." And he'd say, "Okay, good." I figure he got in his car and turned on his radio and left and didn't even think about it. That's not what I was trying to do. So I started realizing that not everybody has the internal mechanism to translate praise into self-esteem, into pride. And that part of our job as a manager is to help them install the mechanism so that they understand what we're trying to tell them so that they can process their praise. So I'd say, "Billy, stop for a second. I want to tell you something before you leave." And he'd say, "Okay." And I'd say, "I have a lot of respect for you, and I want you to respect yourself." And he'd look at me kind of strange, and I'd say, "Listen, you're a good busboy, which means that you're going to be good at everything you do in your entire life, for the rest of your life. You're going to be, if you're good at what you do now, you're going to be a good doctor or a lawyer or anything you decide to do in your life. And I want that to make you feel good. So when you get in the car today, don't turn on the radio. I want you to think about what I'm telling you because it's meant to make you feel good." You see, I think that self-esteem is more addictive than heroin. Like, it actually releases dopamine in your brain, right? So self-esteem, if I can connect my praise to help them really understand the self-esteem that comes with it, the pride that comes with it, the sense of meaningfulness, then they're going to have to come back for more because it's really addictive. And so part of our job as a manager is to really be very aware and intentional about delivering our message of thanks and appreciation to our employees. And so, a sticker isn't the answer. You can't just give somebody an "I'm essential" sticker and say, "Here, wear this." It's not going to really do anything. There's different levels of this. First of all, there's what I call the intentional level, which is where you give them the sticker and you say, "Listen, I want you to understand why you're essential to us, why you're essential to the community, and why I'm giving you this sticker, and I want you to wear it and stand tall." Then there's what I call the meaningful condition, which is to explain to them that they are essential. Well, you got to put it on them. Explain to them they're essential, why they're meaningful to the company, why they're meaningful to the community, and you need to tell them how you want that to make them feel. Don't assume that they have that mechanism to be able to process that, because I want that sticker to actually make them feel good. Now, there's another side to the sticker, by the way, which is why I'm trying to get companies involved in this, is because not only are you delivering that message to your employees, but you're also delivering a message to your customers about how much you care and recognize your employees for their contribution to your company. That's a win-win.
Yes, it is. And it's not just a one-time thing. You have to repeat over and over again to those same employees that they're essential and why they're essential. It's not because you give them once a sticker that it's over, right? You have to repeat.
Yeah, and somebody said something interesting because I made buttons, and they said, no, I want stickers. And I said, why? The button is more permanent. He said, no, but the sticker makes me do it every day.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, oh, wow, I didn't even think about that when we did it. We were just doing it for expediency.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting because I'm working very hard on the I'm Essential project, and it's growing. More people are going to the website and signing up. It amazes me every day when I get orders for stickers, and you can order them right online on the website. But it blows me away. But I'm learning a lot about how this works. And that's why I really want to get some companies to come to me and say, listen, we want to add this as a tool for our culture. We've got a lot, and by the way, I'm not talking to companies that don't care about their employees or that think that yeah, we're paying them, they should just be, the companies that are using this, the companies that want to be involved in the I'm Essential project, they already have great cultures. They just need more tools to deliver directly to their employees a sense of meaningfulness in this time of uncertainty. Our employees are scared. Yeah, they come to work and maybe they don't seem that way, but you don't know what they're going home to. You don't know what their situation is like in their families. We need to really understand we need to go deeper, and we need to explain to them what essentialness means to us. We need to take that word away from the government and give it back to our employees that have always been essential.
So before I ask you some fire rapid and fun questions, let me, because I know that you won't brag about it, tell us a bit more about what happened a few weeks ago about the I Am Essential project.
A few weeks ago?
Yeah, you were having some videos here locally, and then somebody just...
Yeah, well, what happened is that the local news covered our project, and I got a whole bunch of people signing up, and here in Phoenix, which was great. And then I got contacted by Ashton Kutcher's company, A+ Video, their positive journalism company, and they wanted to feature us, and they put a video out. They created a video for us, and not only did they post it on their website, but they posted it on their social media, and Ashton Kutcher actually put it on his Facebook page. You have no idea how exciting that is. I grew up with that 70s show. So Ashton Kutcher actually saw what we were doing, which I thought was cool, and wanted to put it on his Facebook page. It's gotten over 90,000 views, and I'm so excited about that. Yeah, and so all of this attention, talking to you, just people that are interested in it, people that are moved by this. I'm hoping that this goes well past the pandemic. Mm-hmm. I hope this is a movement of understanding that this is what culture is just a little bit of appreciation goes so far with your employees.
I love it. So now, probably the most difficult part of this exercise today is, okay, I only did an answer with one word to those questions.
By the way, you didn't tell me there was going to be exercise involved.
I know, but just one word, not more than one word. You're not allowed to 2 words or more.
That's going to be hard for me. You know that.
I know. That's why it's a challenge, and I know. What sound or noise do you love?
I cook a lot, so I love the sound of
What sound or noise do you hate?
Gosh, I hate, no.
Okay. If you were to pick 3 survival items to go on a deserted island, which are the 3 items that you would pick?
These questions are pretty hard. I would pick my friend, who I'm thinking about now. I would pick a probably, if it's an island, I want a fishing pole and a frying pan.
Okay. Now, which profession other than your own and what you're doing currently would you like to attempt?
I would like to be on Broadway, absolutely on Broadway.
What kind of a show?
Oh no, I've always said to people, because they say, wow, you're really good at the restaurant business, and my answer is, if I could tap dance, I'd be on Broadway. But I can't tap dance, so I've stuck with the restaurant business.
All right. How can our listeners get engaged with I Am Essential project and find more about your company?
Well, first of all, we have a website, and it might not be easy because it's I'm Essential Project, but with no A, just IamEssentialProject.com. And they can go there. They can really go to our Instagram, because what we're doing is every day we're taking pictures of people wearing the stickers that companies and friends are sending us of those people and telling their stories. So they can go to our Instagram, they can go to our Facebook. And now we've really started pushing LinkedIn, because I really want more businesses to get involved in this, because I see this as really a great tool to augment in your culture. And your culture is probably great, and you're doing great things for your employees already, but we need to figure out a way to add this and make this yours. It might not be our stickers, it might be something we make just for you, but I think now's the time for businesses to really deliver this message to their employees. So LinkedIn is an important way to get in touch with us, and you can get in touch with me directly through that, and you'll see on my website, on the I'm Essential Project website, you'll see my email addresses on there. So
and we'll share all of this on the podcast notes as well.
Terrific.
Any last word of wisdom or advice for our listeners?
Like I said, a lot of people are talking about the word culture, and I think we need to differentiate between your culture aspirations and what your actual culture is, and be able to take an honest look at it. Because I think that you need to have a conversation with your employees about what it feels like. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I would say is I've stopped asking people, how are you? I've started asking people, how does it feel to be you? Because I think how are you is a greeting, and it's designed to have a reaction, fine, how are you? Which is another greeting back. But I think we really need to listen to our employees when we ask them what it feels like to be you. What's it feel like to come to work every day? What's it feel like to do what you're doing and what you're going through? So listen, because I think that that this mental health issue really is worse than we think it is. And that this mental health issue is going so far as to cause suicides and depression. And, there are people around you that are dealing with this. Stop and ask them what it feels like to be them right now, and tell them you want to know because you care.
Well, it's been a real treat having you on the show, Tom. Thank you for your time.
It was really fun.
Thanks for tuning in to the EX Podcast. If you want to learn more, visit our website at expodcast.com. If you want to find out more about our next conferences, go to exsummit.com. Finally, you can also find my manifesto on business to employee or B2E branding at b2ebranding.co. See you next week.